So, you know how AI has made it easier to code? I think that we may be starting to see a pattern where it doesn't take as much effort to build a skill first before you get good at using it. And in this video, I want to talk about this memorization skill that was forgotten a long time ago and why it was forgotten and how I'm building an app to bring it back. It started with this book called Moonwalking with Einstein, which was published 14 years ago by the author Joshua Foer. And in this book, he talks about how he was a journalist that was assigned to write a story about the US Memory Championship. So when he went to the competition, he thought that he would see a bunch of geniuses, but instead, what he found was just normal people that were using this memorization technique to compete on who could memorize more numbers from pi or more cards from a deck. He then decides to compete himself, and in order to prepare, what he did was he found a coach and focused on building the skill for 1 year, and in the following year, he competed and ended up winning the whole thing. And this book went on to become a New York Times bestseller. It sold millions of copies, but then nothing. Nobody really uses the skill anymore, and it kind of faded away. So, what is this technique? It's called the method of loci or the memory palace. And what it is that you would choose a place that you're really familiar with, like, for instance, your childhood home, your apartment, or the route that you take to work. And what you would do is you would mentally imagine yourself walking through this place, and at different locations, you would place a weird image that would symbolize something that you're trying to remember. And when you needed to remember it, you would mentally walk through this place, and these images will show up and trigger the memory for you. Let's say you need to memorize a grocery list of milk, eggs, and bread. And let's just use your home as your memory palace. So, what you would do is imagine yourself coming home and first walking up to the door. And in order to memorize that you need to buy milk, you would imagine that maybe there's a giant carton of milk spilling milk everywhere on your doorstep. Then, as you walk into your house, what you would do is place another image, which could be maybe chickens laying eggs everywhere. And as you walk further into your house, maybe down the hall into the kitchen, you could place another image of bread, like a giant loaf of bread, weightlifting or something, to remind you that you need to buy bread. And the next time that you go to the grocery store, what you would do is you would mentally walk through this memory palace in order to remember the items that you need to buy. But it's not just grocery lists that you can use this to memorize. You could use it to memorize almost anything. Medical students are using it to memorize microbiology, different medicines, pharmacology, and you could use it to also memorize more than just 3 items. Memory championships can memorize up to thousands of items. So, if this technique is so powerful, why isn't it in use today? Well, there are four main reasons. One was that you had to build the skill itself first before you could use it. Joshua Foer had a full year and a coach, but most normal people do not have this much time to invest into building a skill first. And secondly, it takes a lot of effort to create one of these memory palaces. Just for 3 items on your grocery list, you had to create 3 separate images. And yeah, that's just too much work for one person, especially whenever you have to memorize a bunch of facts for a test. And thirdly, it was really hard to review these memory palaces and keep it fresh. In order to review these memory palaces, you would have to go through them step by step. Imagine if you had 1,000 items, how long it would take you just to refresh your memory palace. It would take forever, and nobody really has the time for this. And lastly, if you forgot to write it down and you ended up forgetting it from your memory palace, all of that work would be lost because then you have no record of it. So, how am I bringing this technique back? Well, for the first problem where a person had to first build the skill first in order to actually start using it, what I want to do instead is build an app that makes it easier for anybody to create a memory palace. Secondly, where the problem is that it takes a lot of effort to create these memory palaces, what I want to do is build a community where people share their creations so that a new user or somebody starting a new memory palace, when they come in, they don't have to start over. They can just get their inspiration from a different memory palace. And for the third problem, where it was really difficult to review these memory palaces because you had to step through each item one by one, what I want to do is instead put each of these items on flashcards so that you can review them. And maybe you can find out which one you're having trouble with so that you can put a new image in or you can put more effort into reviewing it. And for the last problem, where if you forget something from your memory palace, you lose your progress. Instead, what if you stored your memory palace on a canvas that saves your progress for you? So, yeah, if you think this is interesting, I'm looking for beta testers and some feedback. So, just let me know if you would be down to provide some feedback.